greet the YouTube people too.
Okay, you're live.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Parsha class for the week, which we try to give a Kedoshim, that God wants us to be a holy people. And the expression that is mentioned in the Torah is very indicative of what God wants us to accomplish in this world altogether. If you have a Chumash, you could start with chapter 19 of Leviticus.
As loud as
Clerk,
possible,
test.
husband.
Right there, beer. Yep, Leviticus. Kedoshim, Parshas, test.
As loud as possible, please.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to get the conference call too.
No, not unless
No.
somebody's going to use
I
it.
don't think, I don't know anybody. Okay.
Let me call
Rabbi
Rebbitzin.
Yaakov,
If she's going to
thank you
use
for
it, you
joining
can
us.
call it.
We're
me
going to
call
work
her.
on Parshas Kedoshim, which is the Torah reading for this week. It's a short portion with a gigantic, enormous content with it. And I'm just going to begin just for a moment. Chapter 19, verse 1, by Dabir Hashem al Moshe Lemor, God spoke to Moses saying, now there's a change over here. Usually it just says, Dabir el Bnei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people via Machal and say to them the message from the Almighty. But this time, it says, Dabir el Kol Adash Bnei Yisrael, speak to all of the congregation,
All right, so
all the
do you want
congregation of the
conference
children of
center or
Israel,
just leave
via
it on the
Machal
phone?
and say unto them, Kedoshim to you
Just
shall
leave
be
it on the
holy.
phone?
Ki Kadosh, for holy, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, am I the Lord your
Oh,
God.
okay. I'll
So I
tell
want
him
to
to call
focus
her.
on the word Kedoshim, what Kedoshim means
Mhm.
altogether. God wants us to be a
Right,
holy
but
people,
when are you
and
going to
that's
call?
why He
Because you'll
gave
be
us a
the only
special
one and
diet
do music
to eat
on
certain foods and not eat other foods, to drink certain types of drinks
Oh, okay.
and not other
I'll tell him
ones.
to do it.
And He gave us many wonderful guides that are all
Yaakov, what's going on?
they're all
Rebbitzin
healthy
Kat-
and good for us.
Rebbitzin Katz wants the conference center.
Should I-
She's
should-
calling right now.
Or the rabbi or
Okay,
what?
hold on, everybody.
I guess we're having trouble listening to the rabbi.
Are you having trouble hearing me?
Yeah.
Rabbi Fry, you can't hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, good.
1, 2, 3.
Anything we could do, Rabbi
Bless
Fry?
Hashem, oh my soul.
Wait.
I don't know. Just a little bit. I'm hearing you and Rebbitzin at the same time, I think.
Correct.
I think that's going to clear up right away.
Oh, goody.
I'm just getting a conference call. Someone has requested it.
Thank you for choosing free conference.
But you're going to have to speak louder. I can't hardly hear you.
If you are the host, press star now. Otherwise,
Okay.
please wait, and you will be joined into the conference.
Okay, she's probably there.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you didn't know
Please
yet.
announce yourself.
Okay, this is Rabbi Shaffer beginning the Parsha class. Can you hear me now, Rabbi Fry?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
good. I'm just beginning on chapter 19 with the name of the portion Kedoshim, and I would like to dwell upon what that word actually means because it's really very, very unclear. By Dabir Hashem el Moshe Lemor, and God spoke to Moshe saying, Dabir el Kol Bnei Yisrael, speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel. Usually it just says Dabir el Bnei Yisrael, speak to the children of Israel, via Machalem, and say to them the following. So here it says speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel. There's some kind of a change in procedure that's indicated here, which we're going to study about very soon. But the first thing is Kedoshim to you. This portion is devoted to giving the Jewish people and those who wish to follow in their proper ways. The basic theme of the Torah is that we be and act as a holy people. And it's a very unholy world right now. So it really takes a great deal of discipline and faith and work to be a holy people. So God says, I want you to be holy. He's Ki Kadosh, because holy, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, am I the Lord your God. I'm holy. I want you to be holy as well. What does it mean to be holy? This whole expression is difficult to understand. And we know it would mean morality, of course, as with morality, honesty, that would make people what you would call good abiding citizens. But what do you have to do to be holy? God is everywhere. and he created a universe for us to really benefit from. And everything in the universe is not necessarily holy. Everything has a purpose. Some people live a proper and what we'll call it a good citizen, law-abiding life in which they keep at least the Noahide commandments, live honestly, and they live decently, and they're decent to their fellow man and woman. What does it mean to be holy? Holy means that God's presence is felt and appears and dwells on a certain person, a certain people, or certain objects. For instance, if you take the holiest object that you and I normally see is a Torah scroll. It's so holy that when you open up the ark, people stand up as it's taken out. You don't handle the parchment upon which it is written with your bare hands. That's disrespectful. If you have to touch the parchment, you're going to have an aliyah, for instance, you're being called up to the Torah, so you take your talus and you don't handle the parchment with your bare hands. That's how holy it is. Why is it holy? What does it mean that it's holy? When parchment is prepared from a kosher animal and a proper Jewish rabbi scribe writes the Torah upon it according to the various rules and regulations, that Torah scroll is no longer a roll of parchment with a couple of handles. That's an extremely holy object. What does it mean to be holy? When God shows himself in an object, in a place, on a person, in a people, that's holiness. That's what it matches what God says here. Ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokeichem. God is holy. God is of course, he's everything. And he sets himself aside certain things that he feels are proper for the universe to be observing, the whole universe. You have the laws of nature. Those are God's laws too. And you have the laws of the Torah of how to live within nature and how to use nature to serve the Almighty. So that's the expression Kedoshim. When God is showing himself more, then you have holiness. And there are certain things that especially bring about holiness upon a person. Person's behavior. If you keep away from filth, right? Are you clean? Yeah. What if you keep away from filthy acts, filthy talk, filthy thoughts, etc.? That means that that person is worthy, that God should show himself upon that person. Now, don't get the wrong impression. That doesn't make that person a God. God forbid, absolutely not. But that means that God shows his main self on that person, his special qualities on that person, and that's why that person becomes holy. When a whole people behave that way, they become a holy nation. It's a wonderful thing. If you take the word kadosh by itself, just take it and analyze it, you know what it means? It doesn't even mean holy, it means set aside. Set aside from the ordinary, set aside from the ordinary, set aside from filth, set aside from immorality, etc., etc. And that's how we become a holy people. So this portion is so concentrated. It's very concentrated. There's a number of commandments in there that all have to do with the holiness of being the Jewish people. And we will be dwelling upon some of them very shortly. Okay. Meanwhile,
Rabbi Shaffer.
yes, go right ahead. And thank you.
So I thank you very much for telling us, teaching us what this word Kedoshim and Kadosh means. But it seems to me that I kind of disagree in a way that the way the world is today, and of course it's quite decayed from maybe generations previously or whatever in some respects, but it seems to me that a good citizen is probably as close as holy as we can get to these days. I mean, maybe there's more we can do, but a good citizen is definitely a start, on that road, on that path.
It's absolutely. Keeping the 7 Noahide commandments is very commendable, but it doesn't go to the extent that God shows himself on that person to such an extent to call that person holy. Yes, they are a wonderful individual, and they're rewarded by the Almighty. And they're studying their 7 commandments. They can even have the crown of the Torah. But to be a holy people, one has to accept the 613 commandments. One has to accept all 613. Whether we can observe them or not, We accept and study them as best we can. And then the Almighty shows himself on that person and in that person more, okay, this is your point, more than on an ordinary person. That ordinary person receives a great reward, great respect from the Almighty. But to get to the category of being holy, to being lifted, that God resides on that person, God shows himself in that person. That's what it takes to take the 613 commandments and to observe them as best as possible. That means a holy nation. To many people, the word goy is a negative term. Goy meaning a non-Jew. You know that the Jewish people are called goy kadosh. Those words, a holy nation, which shows us that it's open really. It is still open until the Messiah comes. It's still open to everyone who wants to accept upon themselves the 613 commandments. Now, let me just give you a little bit more background on the example I gave. Let's say you have a scribe. Okay, a scribe, he wrote the entire Torah except for one word. He skipped one word or even one letter. That scroll, he worked on it for a tremendous amount of time. That scroll does not have the holiness of a Torah scroll. It has holiness, it has Torah words on it, there's no question, but it does not have the sanctity of a Torah scroll. So that shows you that in order to get that special uplift, that special sanctity from the Almighty, we have to follow certain principles. It's not to be knocked around, God forbid. God forbid that scroll. Yes, it's missing a letter, so it can't be used for the synagogue yet. That one letter has to be filled in, etc. But it doesn't have that enormous showing of God's presence. That's God's presence. We could take a place also. Take a building, okay? Take a building. It could be even a synagogue. And until a minion comes in there, till 10 Jewish men of age 13 and up come in there to pray together, that place does not force God's presence into the room. Once you have 10 men, even if they're joking around, God forbid, which is very wrong, when there are 10 Jewish men that come into that room, that God's presence is shown in there. You can't see it with your eyes. You know who can see it? The angels. They're scared out of their wits when they see a group of 10 Jewish men together. And even if they're not praying and they're not studying the Torah, there's such a quality of God's presence that they're sensitive to. They can see that they're actually frightened, very frightened by it, as a matter of fact. So that's when we are in shul and we have a minion, we have to be careful of what we say, especially, and to use the time in a proper manner and show respect for the synagogue itself. So powerful is that. Let's say a person cannot go to shul. They're too late for the minion. Do you know what it states in the books of Jewish law? That person should go to the synagogue and pray there. Pray at home too. They missed the minion, they missed the quorum, right? So just go to the synagogue. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Just go say the prayers at home in the convenience of your living room. It says no, go to the synagogue. Why? Because God's presence is usually there. Even if it's not there right now, it's usually there. So we're getting a better feeling for the word Kedoshim. I want to find out that why there's a change in the procedure here. Probably you wondered, how did Moses teach the Jewish people? I think you probably think it was like Matan Torah. We were all at Mount Sinai, and God spoke to all of us for the first 2 commandments, and Moses continued with the following 8. You probably thought that Torah was always taught that way. So let's take that apart for a minute, just for a moment. There are people of all different levels, right? There are people of all different levels that are being taught the Torah. Our class teaches the Torah at a certain level. Rabbi Manis Friedman has his classes, Rabbi Raskin, the Chabad rabbi. There's so many teachers that are giving Torah classes now. And some are so complex and they're so deep.
On YouTube.
Average people on YouTube that people can't follow them. Others are much easier to follow, etc. The Torah, you have to reach every single Jewish person. How is it done? Excuse me, how is it done? So I'm going to tell you now. This is the normal procedure. Moshe Rabbeinu is taught a lesson by God. He has to teach it to the whole people. You have a big crowd. You're going to have women and kids. Where, mommy. How could you possibly? How could you? By Matan Torah, everybody, of course, was absolutely still. The whole world was absolutely, completely in awe of the Almighty's presence. But on your regular Torah lessons, how could that be? So here, I'm going to tell you what the normal procedure was. First thing Moshe did when he got a lesson was he took his brother Aaron. Aaron was the high priest and the second highest ranking Torah authority for the people. They're learning, he's learning it now too. He has to learn it now too. So you can imagine what a genius that Aaron was as well. He takes Aaron and he gives the instructions that Aaron was capable of understanding. Of course, he's at a top level. After he finished teaching Aaron once, so Aaron took a seat to Moshe's left. Who comes in next? Moshe then gets Aaron's sons, who are the Kohanim, the priests of the Jewish people. Aaron is the high priest, and only two of his sons remain, which were Elazar and Isamar. He taught them next. Okay. The father's there. The father hears the lesson repeated. So 2 times Aaron hears the lesson repeated. Moshe teaches them the Torah passage of the law at a level that was suitable to their understanding. As we see, we're going down. So far we have one teaching to to Aaron, and a second teaching to his 2 sons. All right, then Aaron and his sons then seat themselves next to Moshe and the elders of the Jewish people. Elders are people that we call like a congress. It's sort of like a congress, what we have today. People, we see the United States Congress. Some people are they are very brilliant people. Other people are not so brilliant. But the elders of Jewish people, it doesn't mean that they're old. The word elder in Torah language means zokain, Zayin Kuf Nun. That stands for Zeh Kona Chachma, a person who has great wisdom. So these are the people that the Zakanim, the elders of the Jewish people. It's like a congress in which they are being taught now their own lesson. Okay, so
Rabbi Shaffer?
Yeah.
Can you say that the Zakanim were sort of like what we see in Rebbe videos, the Hasidim that were sitting behind the Rebbe when he was giving over a mimer? These are sort of like
those are people that they're old in age, but sometimes an elder is a person of very high capacity, very great brilliance. That even though that they're younger, they also are worthy. For instance, I'll tell you this. When the Rebbe would be speaking, there were a group of chosrim, a group of people that can hear something once and follow it and repeat it word for word. What's it called?
Right, I've heard they write it down even on Shabbos. My Shabbos talks, they can write it down laughing about Shabbos.
I met a person in the New England Conservatory of Music, a Jewish fellow who had that talent. He could repeat what people told him the entire day, all the conversations that he had. And there were others too. And he was complaining. This is the funny thing, he was complaining. He said, we remember everything. He was speaking to others who had that incredible ability, etc. I was saying to myself, too bad this young Jewish fellow he was Jewish. It's too bad that he never had exposure to Torah training. I spoke to him what I could. I talked to him what I could. But imagine what a Torah scholar this person would have been. Now, that means a young person can have a very advanced mind, a tremendous memory, and an advanced mind. Don't forget the Rebbe's Sikhs aren't easy to understand. His Maimon that we studied, they're not easy to understand. You have to get an idea. You have to hear what he said and figure it out and memorize it on the spot. It's just incredible. So your point is true that they would be called the Alta Zakanim, the Alta Hasidim. They would be called by that. But age is not the only factor. Ability is the factor, right? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, right, when he was appointed as a chief rabbi of the Jewish people, and he was just 18. He was just a young man. Moshe repeated the same passage to these elders in a manner that they could understand, since their spiritual standing was not of the same caliber as that of Aaron's sons. So you can imagine how brilliant Aaron and Aaron's sons were, that this next level, there's a kingdom. You and I just had a whole discussion what it means to be an elder, a person of great intellectual capacity and memory. Even they were still not at the level of Aaron's sons, and Aaron, of course, Aaron himself. Finally, we ready? With the next repetition, all the Jewish men were summoned, with all the mentioned groups still present. So it came out that Moshe again explained it in a fashion that at least most of the people will be able to understand now. Now, this time, okay, this time in Kedoshim, there was a change in procedure. Hashem said to Moshe, don't follow your usual method of teaching, which we had over here was Aaron by himself, next Aaron's sons, then the elders, right? It's then the elders, etc., and then all the Jewish men together. I don't hear anything about women, right? Okay, so that was up to the men to teach the women. Notice that. Do not follow what you usually do, Hashem commanded Moshe after you taught him the mitzvahs of the Parsha. Call an assembly. That's this week's Parsha, Kedoshim. Call an assembly of the entire people. Include the women and the children who aren't even normally summoned. They weren't gathered. Teach Parshas Kedoshim to everyone at the same time. So there's something very unique about this Parsha, which we'll see very soon. Number one, there are a number of fundamental principles of the Torah in this Parsha. V'yahavta l'reacha kamocha is one of the commandments in this Parsha. And you shall love to your fellow Jew. You should love your fellow Jew just like you love yourself. And that's a very all general commandment that really is a general principle in the Torah that if you don't mistreat your fellow Jew, that includes so many commandments as you won't steal, you won't say gossip against that person, you'll be careful and respect their property, show respect for them. Many, many commandments are shown that way. And also because the people are God's people, you're going to treat them with extra respect and extra consideration. Okay. Another thing is special that there are commandments in Kedoshim that parallel the 10 Commandments. So we're going to go through them actually rather briefly now. So you see really how that this Parsha contains commandments that are similar and parallel to the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. First of all, the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai aren't 10. If you count them, there's many commandments there. It's 10 speakings. They're grouped into 10 speakings in which each one is a group actually of commandments, a number of commandments that contain with each one. So we're going to go through them rather briefly, and we'll go into a little bit more with detail shortly. So I'm going to just share this with you to show you the parallel between the 10 speakings, 10 commandments, and commandments in this portion. So we'll take a look now. This is from Rabbeinu Bachya. Rabbi Levi says, the 10 speakings are written in this Parsha of Kedoshim. Here we go. What was the first commandment? Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. It is written in Parshas Kedoshim. Here it says, Ani Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. This time in the plural. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I'm your God individually. That was singular. God is telling each individual Jew, I'm your God. I'm special for you. You don't have to wait upon anyone else. I am special for you. You know how sometimes you make an appointment, trying to make an appointment with a doctor, and they tell you, the doctor's at lunch. Then after lunch, they tell you, the doctor's at a meeting. Then after they say, the doctor has to go on vacation now, etc. When can you have an appointment with the doctor? I'll tell you when you can have an appointment. In 6 months. I'm not sure I'll still be on Earth in 6 months. I need a doctor now, etc. Well, okay, we'll move you up to 5 months. I think you've had these experiences, okay. Well, that's why when it came to giving the Torah, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, the Lord, the Almighty said, no waiting, no standing in line. I, individual, I'm your God for each Jew and Jewess individually. So in this week's portion, Hashem says, Ani Hashem Elokecha, I'm your God, I'm the God of all of you, I'm the God of each one of you personally and also of all of you. Let's take another one. Lo yilecha, there shall not be to you any false gods. Lo yilecha Elohim Achem. Right, that's the next commandment of the 10. In this parsha, it says, Ve'Elohei masecha lo sasela. Don't make any molten images. You remember the golden calf, as you recall. from that. Lo sisa. Okay, lo sisa is the next one. We're not supposed to bear the name of God in vain. What does it say over here? Lo sishavu v'shmi. In this parsha it says, don't swear falsely in my name. Do you know what making an oath actually is? People don't realize what it is. A person makes an oath, they swear by God. Don't do it. Don't do it. We're not supposed to do it. What a person is doing when they make an oath and they make it in the name of God, they swear by God. What they're doing is they're calling God as a personal witness that what they're saying is true. You see, that's a very, very critical thing. And a person has to be so careful before they make any kind of an oath. In fact,
So what's the proper way to respond to a court clerk? You know, when we're asked to make an affirmation or something like that. When
no, that they can. It can answer affirmatively, yes.
you're gonna, you know,
I do.
you
Yes.
just say I do or I affirm. They say, do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
Right.
And you say I do. You can say I do.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
The person has to really mean it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean legally they really for Shalom Rahmanatzlan they would make perjury charges or something if we weren't telling
That's right.
what was the right story. Yeah.
I was in a court case. I never was actually on a jury, but they were selecting a jury, and I think every single witness was a policeman. So
Oh, wow.
they asked, would you believe a policeman more than a common citizen?
I know. I had that question too one time when I was doing jury duty. Of course, I said yes. What did you say?
I said yes also, and that wasn't good because you have to be impartial. So I got knocked off the jury. I wasn't sad that I got knocked off the jury, but this was the reasoning that I used, that the policeman, besides the fact that he's supposed to be a person who upholds the law, besides that, if he lies, he loses his job. He loses his job. So somebody else just gets disgraced, but he loses his job if he lies. So that's the kind of logic I was using. It said, anyways, they let me go. I wasn't. It's right in Baltimore, by the way. It was in Baltimore too. Yeah. When they used to call me for jury duty, I brought a whole bunch of sperm and sat the whole day and learned. That's what I did. Okay, we're going through the 10 Commandments. We have, I'm the Lord your God. You shall not preach you false gods. Don't bear the name of God in vain. So that means don't swear by God's name falsely. God forbid. Zokos Yom HaShabbos Lakadsho, to remember the Sabbath day. What's written in this portion is Shepsosai Tishmoru, Umikashi Tishmoru, Shepsosai Tishmoru. My Sabbath you shall keep. So Shabbos is in this portion also, and it's mentioned in several contexts. One of the contexts that it's mentioned in this portion is that it's Shepsosai Tishmoru V'Yispatiti Ro. We're not supposed to build the Holy Temple on Sabbath. As holy as it is, and as important it is for the Almighty to have the Holy Temple, we're not supposed to build it on Shabbos. So we're relating each of the 10 Commandments to related commandments. Here's another one. Here we go. I hope to go into a little detail on that. Honor your father and your mother. So that's in the 10 Commandments. What does it say here? Right at the beginning, each each person should show fear and awe for their mother and their father. So I could go into it just a little bit now, just to take a minute or so. In the 10 Commandments, it's interesting to note the differences. In the 10 Commandments, it puts father first. Honor your father and your mother, in order that you be rewarded with long days. Now, in this portion, when it speaks about fear or reverence, it says Ish imu v'aviv puts the mother first. Why in this portion, when it's speaking about yira has to be not like finger biting, scaredness, but showing what you would call reverence for parents. Awe and
I heard an answer on this, but it has to do with It has to do with what you naturally feel towards your mother or your father in that case. So the mother is one who you normally would, they're doing the upbringing and the education in the home and all the feeding and clothing and washing and whatever. So naturally you would think you would honor your mother more naturally as an inclination, but it says public for father first in the this is what I heard. And then when it says to fear, and it says fear mother first, and then and the father comes second, because your natural inclination is to be not only fear a little bit of real fear, but also like of reverence and awe towards your father. That's your natural inclination, but you wouldn't direct that towards your mother naturally, so the mother comes first in the second case.
That's very good.
I'm not sure
That's
it's
a rational
clear.
answer. Right, we'll speak about that. That usually a child is more afraid of their father than their mother.
Right.
And when it comes to honoring, doing like favors and doing things for one of the parents, the child will be more apt to do for the mother. The mother will persuade the child with different words, and she shows a lot of physical love and expression to the child. Not that the father doesn't, but the mother kind of specializes in that. So when it comes to honoring and doing things for a parent, the Torah puts the father first because the child is more inclined to put the mother first for honoring. When it comes to fear and respect, the child is more apt, of course, to show that for the father, but the mother, the child is not so afraid of the mother when it comes to discipline, etc. So therefore, when it comes to fear and awe and respect, that the Torah puts the mother first, and it's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we heard this thing. Wait till your father comes home, right? Remember that?
And then the kid starts shivering in his boots, right? He's shivering in his boots. I just want to, in the Ten Commandments, we find that Kaveri Savicha V'Asimecha is the fifth commandment, and that it's on the first tablet. The first tablet deals a lot with what we call between the Almighty and man. For instance, I'm the Lord your God, there shall not be to you any false gods, etc. Don't be the name of God in vain. Remember the Sabbath, and then honoring parents. The second side deals more with between man and man. It's also godly commandments, but it says not to steal, not to kill, right? Not to commit adultery. That's between man and man. Not to be jealous, etc. That has to do more man with man. So we're wondering, why is honoring parents connected with the side, the tablet, that first tablet that's mainly between man and God? I'm the Lord your God. Don't be any false gods. Don't bear the name of God in vain. So the answer is, it's like a transition commandment. Honoring parents, the Almighty compares the honor to parents to the honor to Himself. Kabedes Hashem mehoncha. Honor the Almighty from your wealth. Use everything you have to honor the Almighty. And kabedes avicha v'esimecha. The same expression. Honor your father and your mother. So this is a transition commandment because there are three partners in man. That the Almighty partners Himself, which is in His humility, with the mother and father to create the child. So I learned something very recently, that not only the body of the child, but their animal soul. The animal soul is given by the parents. I didn't think any soul or any spirituality actually was given by the parents directly. But I learned that recently, that the body of the child and the animal soul of the child are given by the two parents, and the godly soul is given by the Almighty. I thought that was something that we could develop, but I learned that fairly recently. Okay, we're going to go a little bit further. We're going to keep our schedule as we had said. We're going to stop.
I'm sorry. Can I don't want to distract from this year, but how is the Nefesh of Bahamas different than the Yetzer Hara?
The Yetzer Hara, excellent question. We call it the evil inclination. So I'm glad you asked that question, because especially we study Hasidus on Sunday, and it's good to bring these things in our other teachings as well. And it's all one Torah. So the animal soul is what operates the body, and its emotions and feelings, that's the Yetzer Hara. Because the Yetzer Hara works a great deal with feelings and desires and things of that nature. So the Yetzer Hara is an element, it's a component, a part of the animal soul, and that especially directs it in the wrong direction. That's a very, very wonderful question. Thank you very much. And please continue. Rabbi Yaakov,
Thank
you
you.
can also make comments and ask questions also. Lo sirtzach, that's commandment not to murder. You'll be surprised what commandment in Kedoshim, in this week's portion, is directly related to it. Lo samod al damei echa. Don't steal on the blood of your fellow. This is speaking about a person who is in danger. Let's say that they're drowning, and the person is an expert swimmer. The one who sees them is an expert swimmer, and they will not be risking their life in order to save that person. Don't just stand by and say, let somebody else worry about it. Let somebody else do it. Lo samo, don't stand by when the blood of your fellow is at stake, is in danger. Okay, here's one also, lo sinov. That's the next one now. What would be in this portion that matches that? Lo sinov is you shall not commit adultery. That would be to sin with another person's wife. So it has to do with morality, and it has to do with relations between men and women. In this week's Parsha, Kedoshim, al techalas bitcha, I can't imagine a person doing such a filthy, horrible thing. You've heard of the trafficking, right? These cartels with the trafficking, etc., etc. It's hard for us to imagine that there's a commandment in the Torah: a father should not use his daughter to have her sin with people. A tremendous abuse, an enormous abuse. I'm sorry to tell you that these things do still occur. They do occur. At any rate, we see there's a portion here that just because the person he's that lady's or girl's father, that doesn't give him authority over her body to use her body for civil purposes. Very, very horrible, very terrible. Okay, now here's one that I'll see if you know the answer yourself. If not, don't worry about it. In the Ten Commandments, it says lo signo, you shall not steal, and in this portion, very similar word, it says lo signovu in the plural. You in the plural shall not steal. There, it seems that there's a real match between the commandment at Sinai and the commandment in this week's portion. There is a difference, though. In the Ten Commandments, lo signo, 10 speakings, lo signo means don't steal a person, don't kidnap. And kidnapping is a capital crime in Judaism, a very severe crime, a capital crime. So lo signo is don't kidnap. In this week's portion, don't steal another person's money or property.
Okay.
So that this portion is the one that really speaks about. We always say lo signo geneva, right? It's really lo signo vu is the specific commandment there that it's referring to there. Now, how do we know? This is I'm going to teach a principle like we have in our Gemara class. We learn principles of how Jewish law is extracted from the psukim, from the scriptures. So you'll be very, very interested to see how this is done. How do we know that in the Ten Commandments, when it says lo signo, which is singular, that it's referring to kidnapping, and the lo signo vu in this week's portion that we're reading, it's you shall not steal property, you shall not steal money. How do we know one from the other? So I'm going to teach you a principle. This is also in the Rabbi Yishmael's 13 principles. Davar halomed binyono. A thing is often learned by its context, the subject matter that it's connected with. So let's look at the Ten Commandments and let's see what commandments are right connected with this you shall not kidnap. What's connected there? It says lo sirtzach, that's a capital crime. You shall not murder. Lo sinaf, you shall not sin with another person's wife, capital crime. So now when it says lo signo, and you shall not steal, would that be stealing money or would that be stealing a person, kidnapping? So from the subject matter, don't murder, which is a capital crime, don't commit adultery. That tells you dover, a matter, halomed binyono, it is learned from its context what subject matter it's dealing with. Since it's dealing with capital punishment, so likewise, that commandment is also dealing with capital punishment. Okay, we're almost done with this series, which is very nice. Okay, here we have Losana. It says Losana Breacha. You're not supposed to answer false witness, right? And we have over here Loselech Rochel. Okay, Loselech Rochel. You shouldn't go around gossiping. Gossiping is go around and tell stories. I saw this in that guy's house. I heard him say this, etc., etc. So that's related to not testifying falsely. Okay, Lo Sachar, which is number 10 over here. You shall not be jealous of your fellow Jew. You shall not covet. So let me give you a little detail here. This is a misunderstood commandment. What does it mean, don't be jealous? Actually, Sachma means don't be desiring. How is it possible that you won't see somebody else's property, somebody else's house, somebody else's car, and you won't have some sort of feeling, I wish I had that too? Which, of course, we discipline ourselves. It's not a correct way to feel. We should say to ourselves, thank God I have I got 4 wheels to I got 4 wheels to drive. I got a roof over my head, etc., etc. Does it have to be Buckingham Palace? Does it have to be such a fancy thing? Lo Sachmod actually is different. Many people misunderstand this commandment. Lo Sachmod is that if you see something of your fellow Jew that you want very badly, so don't go over to that person and say, I'll give you this much for it, I'll give you that much for it, I'll pay. It's not stealing, but it's being desirous of someone else's property. You try to convince them. You try to convince them to sell it to you so that you'll have it. So you see that it's not just the feeling a person has towards someone else's house, their property, their car, whatever. It's doing something to sort of, I won't say force, but let's say strongly persuade that person to let you have that thing. So we have to catch ourselves that way. We mustn't say, "Oh, I'd love to have that." Whatever. What do you take for it? Well, I'll offer you this, etc. That's low sacrifice. We mustn't do that. We must not do that. Okay, so we see that the 10 commandments that were given at Mount Sinai, they're directly related to commandments in this portion as well. So I said that I would keep the time, and thank you very much for joining us. Rebbitzin, are you doing anything with the YouTube? Okay, all right. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Rabbi Shaffer.
And
Good.
if you have other questions on the portion, I'll be glad. Okay, you're very welcome. And thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Call to and have a wonderful evening and a wonderful day tomorrow too. Be well. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think the only thing I wanted to mention was something about the idea about when we see something of other people that seems appealing to us, or like, oh, we wish we had it and everything. It's not so much that we want to like. I don't know so many people that are really like into this gathering stuff. Like, they used to say something like, somebody with the most stuff at the end of their time wins. I don't know what that even means,
It
but
doesn't sound
so
it sounds to me that they lose.
they lose. They seem to be losers, right? But I guess what I'm saying is that what I tend to do is something is if I see somebody that maybe they did a renovation in their home, or they have this really a stunning menorah or something like that, and I'm kind of like, I say to myself, I'm kind of glad for them that they have something like this. It's sort of wonderful. Like Hashem. It shows me that Hashem provided this bracha for them in whatever means that they have. Or whatever. It's not. There's not like an envy or a jealousy. It's sort of like to be glad for somebody else for the things that Hashem has benched them with.
That's wonderful. You have a wonderful, kindly personality. Thank God, and that's a lesson for us all. It's very beautiful to be grateful to God that person has that wonderful thing, rather than be jealous of them or want to try to purchase it from them or whatever.
Right.
So that's very good.
I mean, not perfect, but I tell myself this is the right way to be. You
When
know.
it comes, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You have an instinct for the right thing, Baruch Hashem. And please, that's very wonderful for us all to hear and to emulate such a wonderful.
What's that, Iko?
Just would say one more
I'm
thing. When it
always
comes,
in order. If anybody would like to bid, the bids are open at the.
The bids are open for them.
when it comes to material things, then we're not supposed to be jealous and covetous. We're not supposed to be. If we see that someone is very devoted in their Judaism, or that they're able to study the Torah at a higher level, that's where a person can be. That's where a person can be desirous, which means they work on themselves. They should work upon themselves to reach that higher level and to be able to learn even that much better than before, at a deeper and a more accurate level than before. For spiritual things, we should not be complacent. We say, Ezehu Osher, who, in the ethics of the fathers that the Rebbe teaches, Ezehu Osher, who's wealthy, Hasamech B'chalko, one is happy with what he has, which is the opposite of this 10th commandment, in which the person is not happy with what they have, and they want to try to get it away from the other person, even though it's not stealing, but it's very, very wrong. When it comes to spirituality, it comes to being a better person, a person who's more honest, a person who shows more respect for the Torah, respect for other people, and respect for the non-Jew as well. That when we see a person has wonderful values, wonderful character traits, what could I do to improve and be like them? That's good. That is something that.
So that's a good envy, or that's a good jealousy, right? Yeah.
Spiritual character. Spiritual
Right.
things, not material things. Thank you so much, and I'm glad we were able to get together tonight. Okay.
Good, Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Rabbi Shaffer. So tomorrow, Wednesday,
Tomorrow is a
5:30.
regular 5:30. 5:30 class, yeah. And bring your commotion, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Am I turning off the Zoom channel now? Is Reverson done? Nobody's coming on to Zoom.
Yes,
is
please.
it?
You may turn it off. Thank
Oh,
you.
unless Yaakov, are you staying to listen to Reverson?
I'm not
For
gonna.
a little bit, I have to do something.
She's not going to be on Zoom, yeah.
I'm gonna give
No,
over
No,
my.
but he's on Zoom. So let me leave it on for him. I'll just turn off my video.
Hold on, the Rebbetzin wants to explain. Go ahead.
I'm planning to give over my class after my husband's class tomorrow, because he's been taking like almost an hour for the Parsha, which is fine. I want him to take 2 hours if he wants, but it's a lot of time to try to keep people on the listening more. So tomorrow we're going to be giving the class back to back anyway.
Sorry, Rabbi Shaffer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not able to hear Reverson clearly.
Really?
So what is she saying that
No,
I should leave it on for Yaakov or no?
You could no, she's not continuing this evening, but she is tomorrow. She's going to give her class tomorrow after the Gemara class. So you can turn the
so we'll leave it on then.
Thank you
Okay.
so much for joining us.
And thank you for
Thank you,
everything
Rebbe
always.
Frank, for arranging the that it should take place. Thank you. Okay, be
All
well.
right. All the best.
You
I'm
too.
taking this from
Okay,
YouTube
so, yeah,
over here,
Okay.
and just to see
You got
the
it.
people that came in. Hello, Heavenly Faith.
Have to count. Don't forget to count the Yomer.
Oh, yeah.
You guys
Thank you.
Yeah, I
see
haven't done it. I
it.
went tomorrow, but it was too early to count. I have to count. I think
Okay.
yesterday was
Heavenly
17.
Faith, maybe I can answer
Yeah.
your question.
It's too early for us.
That was
over
my
here.
husband, the
Oh,
rabbi
wow.
teaching.
Okay.
His
know, I
class
have
is
my-
finished.
I have
Normally
my
I come
desk
in
on
at
my
this
desk.
time,
I have a sign that says
but
Spirit.
tonight we're
Make
gonna
sure
cut it a little
Uh,
shorter, and I'll be
Good
back
idea
tomorrow
if you-
night.
Like one of
But
those
if
little sticky
you have a
sticky
question,
papers,
please
you just stick
type
it on
your
a computer.
question. I'd be glad
no
to try to
Post-its,
answer
yeah.
it for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
If you're
Right.
still
All
on
the
and,
best.
Good
and
night, be well.
listening,
Thank you. That's good.
I would be more than happy to answer your question. If you want to type in your question, I'll be more than glad to answer it. Or my husband, the rabbi, whoever can. The thing is that the computer is very far from my husband, and he can't see the screen with little letters on it, which is where the YouTube is being recorded. So, if you want to type in the question now quickly before I close it, I'll be glad to either answer it or let my husband answer for you. Heavenly Faith, are you still there? Okay. This week's Torah is very interesting. There's two combinations. One is we have Ezekiel or Yehezkel 22, and we have Amos or Amos chapter 9. And it depends if they're Sephardic or Ashkenaz, which means if they come from a Latin background or they come from like a middle. How would you describe Ashkenazim?
German.
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 Oh, well. German Jews. Interesting.
Of
Yeah,
course, many
Sephardic
other
is
countries too,
Spanish.
of course.
Huh?
Many other countries are too, but those are the two, the center, those would be the two central countries.
Yeah, because I've understood that people that okay, they ran away from whatever, the Holocaust, whatever, and went to all these different countries, and so Ashkenazim
Yeah, this is long
have
before
expanded.
the Holocaust. It's long before the Holocaust, but there were
Yeah.
unfortunately other terrible things that caused Jewish people to be dispersed.
So with that in mind, it is now a much more expansive situation for Ashkenazim. But when it comes to the Haftorah, which is the prophet reading that is associated with the Torah portion that we study this week, no matter where a Jew, Orthodox Jew is in all of the United States or the world, we all study the same Parsha in that week. That means the Parsha is a portion of the 5 books of Moses, which this week we study Leviticus. What is it? You wrote it down for me. I don't even know where I put it at the moment. Leviticus 19. And until when? 19?
I don't have
You don't have it at hand? I'll probably be in tomorrow's class. I'll be mentioning until where. And we're going to be studying basically the prophet readings from this week. What my husband taught was the Parsha, which is Kedoshim, which is the portion of the 5 books of Moses that is studied this week. Normally I teach my class right after his, but since it's getting darker later over there on the East Coast, and the men have to pray all together at the congregation, that's called a minyan, which is 10 Jewish men, which they need to open the ark and take the Torah out and make certain prayers like the Kaddish, which is for people who passed away. So with that in mind, we decided to move my class, my portion of tonight's class, to tomorrow night. My husband teaches a class which is not recorded on YouTube at 5:30 Eastern Time, which is New York or Baltimore or anywhere on the East Coast. And then that would be at what time is your class? 5:30, husband? 5:30 Eastern Time. And then 6:30 Eastern Time, I will come in all my classes. I open the YouTube Live and it's recorded. If you go to our channel, Yiskel Levinson in YouTube, there's over 300 videos uploaded. You're welcome to see them. The older ones that were from the year 2020 and before were only about maybe 10-15 minutes long. But the ones ever since like 2021 and forward, they've been getting longer and longer and longer. And some of them are shorter, but most are longer. But thank God for YouTube. You can put it on and stop it and come back later and it picks up where it left off, which is also excellent. You're very welcome to come and join our classes, Heavenly Faith. If you send me an email address, I'd be more than glad to send you the link for the Zoom so you can interact and speak. or the conference center, if you want to write it down, is 844 area code 855-4444. And when they answer, you put in the code 309-6693 and then the pound sign. We don't always have it open. If we open it in the beginning of class because somebody said they're coming in, unless we have at least one person in the class, the thing begins to play music. Therefore, we have to shut it down. But White came in, and so it was open. Usually, if you come in from the beginning of class, you will know if the conference center is open or not. In any case, YouTube will open when I come in, which is an hour after my husband. Tomorrow night's class that my husband teaches Monday and Wednesday is on the Talmud. So, I hope you enjoyed the class. You didn't write me back that you had your question. I don't know what it is if you don't write it. So hope to see you in the class tomorrow evening. And thanks for coming in. Zai Gaben. Shalom, shalom. Almighty bless you. How's me?
Do you want